off safe. But a regular she make me get it. Your enemy and me enemy, so anyone this you me and not tell about me we make it clap. Risk it all for me. Hey, it's all at that time. Right I got you now. So call me like a thief. That's my type of shit.
WEFM, the clean fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Alrighty, so time here in SPG, it is 7:45 and it's time for our commentary with Lyf Compton.
Roleza. Good morning, everybody. Morning, Maka. Morning, Roleza.
Morning, boy. That sounds like two first name, boy. Lyf Anthony what?
Well, exactly. Well, I told you all that the registrar, whatever it's called, it's spin it around to Anthony Lyf. So
I'm giving you a proper name.
Yeah, that's the proper name, right? So yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning, listeners. Yesterday, somebody reached out to me from overseas and they asked me to look into something for them. So this is for them. I actually did the research or whatever. They were speaking basically about the lack of a home for the mass bands, because what I actually noticed is that we're not really hearing. It's February, right? And while persons might say it's kind of early, we're not really hearing about much about Carnival as yet. Blandy Bird, Blandy Bird won the Band of the Year title last year. They were first, and normally we would already hear about them planning to launch, or ads about them planning to launch, but we're not really hearing it. So what I understand is the problem is the lack of a proper home for the mass bands to build the mass. It has been a problem.
I saw somebody post a picture. I was trying to figure out about something. I think Mirage. Yeah. I posted yesterday.
Yeah, the thing is, right, the traditional bands are the ones that are suffering, because the more modern bands, the bands like Mirage and Oxygen, they have a home. Basically they have adequate space to build their mass, because those are the big bands that have the big numbers during Carnival that sell the expensive costumes that most people want to play with. But the traditional bands, which is what Carnival is really about, are the ones that are suffering because of a lack of a home, a proper home. And over the years they were promised a home by the authorities, and they never received the help. So they, like, one year you might hear a mass band is in this space, and the next year you hear they're in a different space. So I understand that talks are ongoing with the current administration to have a space where these bands can operate to the full capacity and feel comfortable, right? Because they never had a home, which is something that I think is important for the culture, especially the traditional bands. It's very important for the culture, because last year when I was speaking to two members of Blandy Bird and Fun, which is Osborne and Gart and these guys, and Blandy himself, one of the main concerns was that they're not having the youngsters. Over the years, they're not having the youngsters that used to have before, that used to come in and help with the mass building. Because that was a thing where youngsters would go to the traditional mass tents, the traditional bands, and help build mass, and they would get one free or whatever. So you would have that. But nowadays days, they're not really having anybody coming in to try to learn to build mass, and it seems to be like a kind of dying part of it. So that's why a home is so extremely important to them. A real home is. So they say they're currently in talks to have a temporary place this year, because the five main mass tents, the five major traditional mass bands are in temporary home. And homes last year, Blandy Bird and friends, they were in the old Juicy building. But that building is gone now. So where exactly they're going to go? this year is the problem, and they are usually first out the blocks with the launch or whatever, but we're not really hearing about that. So I understand that they're currently in talks with the current administration, and they're eyeing two different places to basically have at least 5 of them in one space in one area. So they eyeing either the contentious property up at next to what is up they call next to the old library up there that was once owned by Marcus the Freitas. You know that piece of land there.
Where the parliamentary building was supposed to go?
Yeah, they eyeing that space. The old Thomas Sanders building was mentioned as a part for them too, and Guichet. So they currently in talks.
What happened to the one that was building at Roseau?
Well, actually, the mass bands had rejected that because they had some issues with the safety or whatever. Okay. But the former administration had promised them, we just go to inspect a vehicle, there's a piece of land behind it.
Yeah.
So the former administration had promised that to them to build something for them behind it, but that never materialized. And
but that is close to where that is not too far from where they was building the one.
No, well, basically, they probably had some safety issues with that. People were saying that it was too far from Kingston, but I don't think that was the major problem. The major problem is that I think it was safety issues with that part. Because some rocks had fallen there because the quarry is next to there. So I don't think, it was a situation where they were upset about the length, the distance it was from town. I don't think that was the problem. But right now, Blandybird, Links, High Voltage, Extreme Fanatics, and Tribes, they don't really have a home to build mass this year. So those are 5 of the traditional mass bands, right? The other one, Melbourne Artisans, they're Melbourne and Energy, they're down at the area of the old hospital, down in the back there in the old hospital, they're on the road to Edinburgh. That's this, but I understand that the roof for that building is leaking, so they need some help to fix that. So they really kind of probably asking for some help to fix that, at least for this year, so they could get
It's close to the hospital, close to the gas station.
Yeah. I think those are buildings are owned by government, so they need some help to fix the roof because they're leaking, right? Paul, I can't remember Paul's last name. Butex, Butex. I think she does it. Yeah, I think she has her small setup in her home in Glen. Leeward and International, the person who runs that's down in Layu. I think they have a piece of land. They say they want some help to build their own mass band on. So they're willing to construct their own. Well, Blandybird was in Juicy Building. They don't really have a place right now to go to.
Oh.
Yeah. Who else is it? There's Verlin Ralph.
Links too.
Links doesn't have a home either. And Links came second last year for Band of the Year title. So you see the problem is that first and second don't really have a place to build mass this year. You know what I mean? And High Voltage, which is we all know High Voltage, which is white man from Pars Avenue, very outspoken guy. He always speaking about mass. He actually stayed out of the competition last year because he didn't have anywhere to build mass. And he is one of them. He's recently given the role of a cultural ambassador. He's now a cultural ambassador for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I don't think that knowing him, he doesn't want to scout a carnival this year because we did an interview with him and he said that he's taking the role very seriously and he's hoping to attract youngsters back to the mass building and what's not. But the same issue, the youth's not really interested in coming to learn the art of mass building, which is it's quite actually benefits him because he goes to other countries and constructs costumes and help to build mass for their carnivals, and he has actually won a lot of titles in other countries or whatever. So he's always walking in that regard. So
I it will be very. Yeah, I know you repeated. You said at least twice that youth are no longer interested in building mass costumes. But the youth are also no longer interested in playing in traditional mass.
Yeah, that you see, it's a business strategy. You can knock business strategy. You can knock people success. But the modern bands seems to have worked towards basically hindering the traditional bands from moving forward, right? You can't knock nobody hustle. It's evolution. Things have always evolved in many different areas or whatever. Things can always remain the same. But what it is also forcing the traditional mass bands to do is try to adapt the same marketing approach like the bigger bands, and it's kind of like I don't think that should be done. I think they should be allowed to.
And it's also not just adopt the marketing, but also adopt the style, the costume styles, right? Because I remember, this was a long time ago, like 20 years ago, over 20 years. I used to tell persons that when you come to Vincy Mass, and let's say the theme of the mass band is on parrots, right? Our costumes would depict parrots. You are going to actually see the costumes, in different formats or whatever. It's going to be a true reflection and depiction of parrots. No, it's just the beads and the feathers, right? It's just the beads and the feathers. And I mean, there is that evolution taking place, yes. But I will tell you that last year when I looked at Carnival, when I looked at Mardi Gras, my heart really sank. My heart sank because you are seeing some sections coming up on stage with only 5 persons on the stage. And you have
the traditional bands.
The traditional bands. Where are the persons? I recognize, and the one from North Leeward, I think, was it the first time that they were playing?
I think second or third.
Right. Okay. Yeah. When I looked at it and I was there saying, I'm happy to see that there are persons who are trying to bring out, even community-based mass bands. I was happy to see that, but they're not getting the level of participation that they would need to have in order for it to be sustainable, in order for them to be able to even pay for the material. I mean, some of them are not necessarily making a profit, but it's even just to be able to bring a band on the road.
Yeah, and picture that not being able to make a profit. Picture now that you have to go and find someone to rent to build mass. You know what I mean? For basically half of the year, you probably have to start getting that place for like half of the year so you could adequately start to put the costumes together. So I hope that the mass bands get the needed help this year. I hope that they get the respect that they deserve. I hope they get some sort of boost. I haven't seen anything in the budget in relation to helping to give a contribution to any of these bands. So you have to give this. Okay, let's be realistic, right? You have to give the new administration some time to catch up with all of these things, right? But we hope that in the near future they get a home, they have a facility where they can feel comfortable, where they can start probably building their mass for the entire year, right after Carnival. Because what happens to what happened to them when they have material that they can retain, but they don't have anywhere to store it most of the time, right? So that is also a big problem for them, because we see after Carnival, we see people dump all the costumes at the side of the road, and not because you finish wearing a costume mean the feathers on it not good. You know what I mean? Because some of these feathers, like people up in arms when they hit $2,000, $3,000 for a costume now. But some of these costumes with these feathers, one of these feathers is like $15 US and all kind of thing for one of the feathers, The feathers not cheap. They're not cheap. You know what I mean? And then we see the streets later with them after Carnival. So we hope this year we have, as I said, the Blondie, Links, High Voltage, Tribes, and Extreme Fanatics. They need a home to start to build a mass. They have facilities already eyed where they think they could settle in for this year until something is worked out for them temporarily, permanently. You know what I mean? So we're hearing nothing about Carnival. We would normally started on here a lot of stuff. About Carnival.
There was a promo. I saw a promo even in January for Vincy Mass. The date of flyer was already released. I know
I
that
think
Rodney.
I think the flyer was released since last year, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know that Rodney has been posing several questions on Facebook to solicit response or opinions from persons. So it probably isn't in the full context as yet, but there are subtle hints or subtle marketing that's already happening.
Yeah. So yeah, the mass bands really need the support. They
But
need the
like, let me
support, you
ask
know
you
what I
though,
mean?
because I remember last year when I was looking at the bands as they were making their way across the stage, and as I made mention of seeing some mass bands that only had, well, some sections that only had like 5 persons, and so do you think that maybe we have too many of the smaller bands?
Yeah, you see, nah, I don't think so. Because each band comes with something different, some different, you know, something different ideas, different concepts. But what will surprise you is that the traditional bands, you know, a lot of the traditional bands are sometimes the pictures are usually designed by the same person, eh? Because I did interviews where people like I think his name is it's slipping me right now. As I think it's Ozzy Constance. He said that there were times where he designed multiple bands. You know what I mean? They would have a main band that they work with, but they would design multiple bands because, as I said, even the art of band designing seems to be going out. They don't really have people that design the costumes for them. You know what I mean? It's just like seems to be like a dying kind of thing. And there's a way of bringing these things back because if they get a temporary home, if you get a permanent home, then you could have a staff there. You could have people, you could have massmen there where you have children going in on afternoons. You could form programs from out of the schools where you have children going on afternoon. You give them a small stipend to go and learn art, building a mass. That's something that the government could look into. If you're talking about keeping children off the streets or whatever, you know, they had formed the Pan Against Crime initiative. I'm not exactly sure how many how impactful the Pan Against Crime initiative was, because not everybody is musically inclined. I'm not sure how effective that was, but seems they had it as a big thing and saying it's very, very effective. But when you had different areas like mass building, I think a lot of people with like a lot of children will like the idea of learning how to build a mass, see the work come to life on stage or whatever, and probably get a free costume to go along with it during the carnival time. You know
me,
what I mean?
I would actually take it to the schools. Now, I know that there are going to be some parents who don't want to be involved in carnival. If you don't want your child to be involved in carnival, then okay, right? But to me, my thing would have been to take it to the schools and even have them in their own context. You know, you do a drawing, as you said, you do the drawing, you fit it together, and maybe who knows, you know, even Carnival Tuesday for Mardi Gras, they could come out and have their own display, you know, that sort of thing. But you have to take it to the schools, because unless there is that formal learning space, then persons or parents are not necessarily going to say, well, let me send my child to such a wherever for them to learn, you know. So
a nice space. So yeah, let me just hope that they get the respect they deserve. Let me just hope they get the respect they deserve, because I think like for the last several years they were getting beat around the bush, as we just say. I think so. And is one of the more Carnival Tuesday is the biggest carnival apart from Soca Monarch. Carnival Tuesday is the other big aspect of Vinci Mass that
Monday afternoon making a nice comeback too. A nice
comeback. But people look forward to playing Mass on a Tuesday, and people look forward to seeing the Mass on a Tuesday.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's a part of our culture, I think, that we should give maximum respect to, and we get some help. The traditional bands are already struggling. Let us not make them struggle more to find a space to build mass. Agreed. Because how can the mass band who plays first last year not have a home? You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's my contribution this morning. I hope somebody is listening, and I hope that they address it effectively.
All right.
Yeah.
All righty, like, so yes, we have cough chat, so we have to cut it short this morning. So we'll be back.
Tell the police beg for the massmen too.
immigration officers in front of us today. So
Yeah.
when people coming in for carnival, right? They also
Yeah,
have to
tell
talk to you that.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
All right.
thanks.
So we catch you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
thanks.
All right. Have a good
Yeah.
one.
Mm.
All righty, and that concludes our commentary segment with Lyf this morning. And we were asking, or he was asking the question, is there going to be a home for traditional mass bands? Time here in SVG, it is 8:04, quickly approaching 8:05, and our time check came to you with the compliments of New Haven Funeral Home.
Death is a fact of life. Even though